Welcome to the Creators MBA podcast, your go-to resource for mastering the art and science of digital product entrepreneurship. My name is Dr. Destiny Kopp, and I help business owners generate consistent revenue from their digital product business without the need to be glued to their desks, constantly live launching, or worrying about the social media algorithms. I hope you enjoy our episode today. And my special guest today is Michelle Pontvert. Michelle is your easy events expert and lover of low-lift strategies to grow your business without overstretching your limited time, energy, and capacity. Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today. I am super excited about our conversation because we're going to be talking about something that I personally am very passionate about. But before we get into all that, can you tell the good audience just a little bit more about you and how you help people?
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I've been looking forward to this chat. Basically, I help people put on events, online events from summits, bundles, and other collaborative ways to get your audience growing by borrowing other people's audiences. Essentially, I help you collaborate and create a bit of a fuss around your brand so that people get excited and want to join your email list, so then you can do all the fun things we can do when we have an email list. I have a background in film production. I also then did work as like a wedding planner. I've got lots of planning experience, so I have a very left-right brain kind of balance, and I feel like the planning and the creativity really come to play in the way I approach my events.
You are a Hollywood set director, correct?
Set decorator. I used to do all the beautiful sets behind the scenes.
Tell us about one of them.
Yeah, so my favorite credit was on Parks and Recreation, the TV show. I really loved the show when it was happening, and I was so excited to work on it. And I went to do a bunch of sets, basically put together a market stand for an episode that we did that was really fun. And I got to be on the back lots, and I just loved that time of my life, driving around the sort of streets of LA, looking in all the prop houses, going to set up all the sets in the studios. It was a really fun time, but it feels like a different life these days. It's been over, I think, 15 years since I've been in the film industry, but still very close to it. My husband still works in film, so always has a special place in my heart.
That does sound like fun, like being behind the scenes and doing all that. So I want to jump into what we're going to be talking about today. And as we were chatting before we started recording, and I told you that one of the things I always tell my people is to never take your foot off the gas pedal when it comes to growing your audience and growing your email list. And what I love about the conversation that we're having today is we're going to be talking about doing that through events. Now, for those of you who are listening and you have been with me for a while, you know that I always talk about the creator's growth flywheel. Specifically, what we're going to be talking about today is the attract stage of the growth flywheel. And this is a very important stage, and you really got to focus on this stage all the time in your business. So, Michelle, tell us a little bit more about the various ways that we can use events. And I know that you have your hands in a lot of these and you help people with a lot of different types of events. Can you walk the audience through the various ways that we can do this through events and some of the best strategies you've seen people utilize here?
Yeah, so when we think of events, let's generalize to online bundles and summits. Those are the two most popular ones. Basically, collaborations often end up being events. But when we think of summits and bundles, we're basically pooling together a bunch of experts to either share some valuable content that's exclusive to the event or share their normally paid products for free or for a very low cost. So it's a really attractive thing for people who are interested in your field to come and learn a bit more about your approach, learn a bit more about your expertise, maybe even get a taste of the kind of work you do in a normally paid offer that they can get for free in the event. So it's a great way to introduce yourself to new audiences, and it helps you reach more than just your own audience, because when an event is put on, the host will be promoting it, and all the other participants who are collaborating with you in this event will also promote the event. So you're getting in front of not just your audience, but also the host's audience and all of the other collaborators. So you're getting to really get quite a quick burst of exposure and visibility for your business and for your brand. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody who is seeing the event, who is attending the event, will necessarily go on and join your email list. They then have to opt in to either get your free product that is part of a bundle that normally would be a paid product, or opt in to get your free lead magnet as a next step, another way to get to know you and get some, again, more valuable content from you as this sort of taster. I like to call it like the aperitif in your meal. It's like the first little taster to get to know you. We can either get sort of people through those paid offers or those free offers, but essentially the way we're thinking of this is we're getting lots of visibility. We'll get a portion of those people in the summit or bundle audience to then opt into your list, and then you have the opportunity to nurture them and sell to them and engage with them. But really what we're doing as people participating in summits and people hosting summits is we are pooling together the audiences of not just the host, but also the speakers, and really amplifying our reach by doing it together. So it's really like the collaborative element that makes it have this great impact for growing your email list. And you can do that by participating in the summits, by being a speaker, or by participating in bundles, by sharing your normally paid products for free. Or you can go on to host your own events. And the benefit of being the host of the events is that you do actually get to keep everybody's email who signs up to join the event. So you don't just have to wait for them to opt into your freebie or just to choose your offer from the bundle. You'll have everybody who wants to attend the event join your email list. So if you have seen the advantages of participating in events, of speaking in the events, of participating in bundles, it's an amplified 10, 20, 30-fold level of list growth when you're the host itself.
So let's talk about that a little bit more and really focus our discussion on hosting these events. Now,
Absolutely.
obviously, I do a lot of these in hobby school. I've also done them in my personal brand. I've done the bundles, I've done the summits, and there's pros and cons, right?
Mhm.
To host, it can be a lot of work. I know that you focus on what you call easy events. Tell me a little bit more about that and what do you define as an easy event?
Yeah, so if you've been in the online business space for a minute, you might have seen a traditional sort of online summit or online bundle where there's lots and lots of contributors and often many different elements to those events. They'll have in a summit like video presentations and slides, and there'll be a community, and they might be live presentations, and maybe even an all access pass with a bundle. Those can be wonderful, but as you said, they can be a lot of work. The way I approach events is basically if that was the maximalist version, I'm the minimalist approach. We strip back all the stuff, all those sort of bells and whistles, all those add-ons, and focus on just the content itself. So if we're hosting a summit, it's just the presentations. It's just those pieces of content that our collaborators are creating. That is the event itself. And we focus on really doing that as best we can. I really have this approach of doing less but better and creating really thoughtful topics and really interesting perspectives that are going to engage an audience in a different way than when we just bombard them with lots and lots of different things. You may find with the minimalist style that we can actually go even more specific and niche with our topics too for the events. So rather than having a like online business bundle or an online business summit, we can get really specific about exactly the kind of things you like to deal with or exactly the struggles or the aspirations of your ideal clients. So while our events might be more minimalist in the sort of approach, and we may see slightly smaller number of subscribers, I find that they're often much more targeted and much better aligned leads that we're getting through these events because we're being so specific. And by keeping it so contained and small and minimalist, we're able to really love on, really nurture those new leads and really build that relationship with them. And that's something that's really core to my process is we keep it simple so that we as the host can be as present for the relationship building element of these events, because creating it, putting it on, getting all the subscribers is great. But if we start to see them unsubscribe afterwards or they don't really convert into paying customers afterwards, it's hard to justify all that work. So I much rather you have less upfront work, have maybe a smaller event, but have more meaningful connections and relationships with the people attending and actually have those people be better fit to go in and purchase from you. As I said, like the minimalist approach to the sort of maximalist options you might have seen out there. And that can transform to different kinds of events, whether it's summits or bundles, or I also do other out of the box things, including email only events, written formats. We really like to play with the different formats. But it all has that same through line of keeping it low lift, keeping it easy, stripping back the bells and whistles, focusing on just creating really engaging, really interesting, really thought-provoking content that's going to pique the interest of the right fit people for you as a business owner and really create those relationship connection building opportunities with your audience.
I'd love to dig into some of those other things that you just mentioned there, those
Yeah.
other events that you just mentioned, because I think a lot of people are listening. They're familiar with the traditional summit, the traditional bundle, and generally how they work. So, can you walk us through some of those other options that you mentioned?
Absolutely. My favorite type of event to host is an audio summit. It's essentially like a video sort of presentation style summit, but we just focus on the audio. So rather than being presented through video presentations that people have to sit down and watch, we have the content just uploaded to a private podcast feed and people can listen on the go to that content. The particular sort of twist I do on the audio summit kind of perspective is that I also like to encourage my speakers to not just teach, but to share a perspective, to share some behind the scenes, to share a story. And through those stories, we learn. But I find because the audio format is so personal, when we're walking around doing our chores, living our lives, and have someone talking to us in our ear, it's so intimate and so personal. So I find the pairing of the audio format and the storytelling kind of angle really works beautifully for that. Again, that connection, that relationship building. So audio summits are kind of my favorites. But I also really enjoy doing things like email events. So that's where either you would have a handful of collaborators provide content that's exclusive to you that you share throughout a couple of weeks via email only. Those have been really great as a sort of nurture opportunity, a way to do essentially amplified freebie swap. I'm getting in front of maybe 5, 6, 7 collaborators, audiences at once with these kind of events, but I'm also really nurturing, really engaging my audience, giving them something exclusive and really different than what they're used to seeing in their inboxes. And it creates a really great sort of trickle on effect of really warming up audiences. So when you're back, you're engaged again, you can really seize that opportunity with a promotion or a launch. I've also been playing with sort of other things like roundtables. I'm big on also sort of action taking challenge style of collaboration. So there's so much different sort of space to play with how we approach collaborations, but it really comes down to what problems are we solving? Why are we hosting this event in the first place? So I shared with an audio event, it's that connection, that really like relationship building. With the email events, I find them to be really great for building relationships with collaborators. They're my favorite one to really suggest for people first getting started hosting events because they are genuinely the lowest lift option possible. Like I get them done in usually 5 to 15 hours. And then things like roundtables can come together so quickly. You just need a handful of collaborators and a time that works for everybody to show up on a call. You have a sort of roundtable discussion on a topic. Those can be super interesting and super juicy for your attendees to get into, get something quick and move forward. So those are really nice for a quick turnaround event. And then the challenges, these sort of implementation collaborations work really well for that sense of engagement, that sense of really getting people going and moving towards a direction, which can be a very nice pre-launch strategy as well. So there's lots of playroom. And I really like to encourage people to experiment with the formats because the underlying strategy of events is always the same. We're looking to find interesting topics and bring together interesting people to create an engaging, interesting experience, and then hopefully encourage those people to take the next steps with us. So that's the underlying foundation. And then we have lots of fun room to play with different formats.
What I loved about what all the wonderful stuff you just gave us there was you gave us so many options. Like my brain was going crazy as you were going through everything. I've done the roundtables, I've done the audio summits, but the one thing that I don't know that I've really dived into that you mentioned was all around like the email events. Is that kind of like an email takeover? Is that how you would describe it?
Yeah, I liken it to when you do an email series. Let's say you were going to do like a 6-week series about the same topic, but rather than you creating all that content, you would find people who have aligned niches and expertise to have them contribute to it. So you might do one email one week, and then the next week you'd have you on Destiny to talk about marketing, and I could have someone else to come on and talk about sales and really unify it with this one topic so that the series itself feels like a complete experience. So it is that email takeover, but with, again, a bit more of an overarching topic and theme to it.
I love that. So I have that. I'm going to put that on my list to explore in 2026 here. Now, one question I have for you, Michelle, and it really comes down to what are your recommendations on how to make these easy lift events a win-win for everybody? Because one of the things that I think we do a really good job with this in hobby school is getting those attendees to opt in to this speaker's email list. In fact, in the event we just did this past week, we had a lot of the speakers' websites, they crashed because we were so much traffic to them for people to get their free gifts. So
that's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem to have. So I'm not going to complain about that. But going back to my question, we want to make sure that this is a win-win. So if we're going to be successful and maybe do these events on a regular basis as a host, we want people to want to come back and collaborate with us. So what would you say to that? And what would you guide your clients on in terms of making sure it's a win-win for everybody?
Yeah. So I think the number one thing that will help you as the host, help your collaborators and help your participants is just having really good communications in place, having really clear, regular, explicit instructions on what you need from people when, to have open dialogue. And I find particularly between hosts and speakers and collaborators, really keeping that line of communication going, because I know as a host that my event isn't the only thing these collaborators are working on. So really building up that sort of peer-to-peer relationship with your collaborators early on and really creating that line of dialogue goes a long way to keeping the relationships going well. Even if deadlines don't get met, maybe if things get tricky, you can still have that sort of peer-to-peer relationship in place and really treat it as adults to adults rather than getting feelings hurt and feelings in the way. So clear communications there, and then clear communications with your attendees to tell them what to expect and when, to make it really easy and obvious for them to consume the event, to actually enjoy the event itself, and then making it really obvious and clear, as you said, to go further with your collaborators to make sure they know where to find their freebies and know where to get their gifts. I'm also a big fan of being generous as a host. It's like when we host guests at our home and have a party, we want to be a good hostess and be generous. And I like to not require too much of my speakers. You can ask potentially for people to promote, but you don't have to require promotion if that's not your main goal for the event. But when I do ask for promotions, I'm not too rigid about how people promote. I really just want to, again, keep it in this like peer-to-peer respectful relationship and just ask people to pull their weight, whatever that looks like, and have the conversation of, are there other ways they can champion the event that, especially for larger creators who have big audiences who are busy, one podcast interview, for example, might be worth 10 emails from someone smaller. So I think, again, having that really like open-minded relationship building approach to things like requirements and promotional sort of requirements and specifically, but also deadlines and things, I think goes a long way with building a respectful and positive relationship with your speakers, and then also not requiring tons of our attendees, not asking them to look over here and be over there, not needing them to only access things over here and you have to log in and get passwords, and keeping it simple, keeping it easy, because we know that people's attention is scattered and short, and we want to make sure that if they've opted in, that they get the thing they've opted in for as easily as possible. So really reducing the friction on that end to make sure that we're encouraging people to actually enjoy this lovely event we've created. And that's also part of my sort of philosophy of giving longer free access to things, because I would much rather create an amazing event and have people consume it and actually enjoy it and get the value out of it, really get to know these amazing speakers or these amazing contributors I've pulled together, go join their email lists and have the time to really do that and go through that process with everybody, then hold my sort of content closely and restrict the access and take away access really quickly after 24, 48 hours in the hopes of making some sales. I'd much rather prioritize prioritize the relationship building, both for me and as the host and the participants, but also helping encourage the relationship between the participants and the speakers. So I really do to, again, be generous and hold that sense of community building and relationship building as the higher priority over things like short-term financial wins, because I find often in the long run, it works out better in everybody's favor when we give everyone time and space and the ability to access everything easily and properly.
I agree. I completely agree. And I love everything you said there. Before we wrap it up, Michelle, have any last minute tips for the audience here?
Yes, I think I would just say that hosting an event doesn't have to take over your life. It doesn't have to be an enormous project if you don't want it to be. We often fall into the trap of just copying what people do because we think that's the done thing. You have so much more say, especially as the event host, how you want your event to go. You can decide to keep it really small. You can decide to make it really big, but you get to decide how much you want to take on. And that's where I want to encourage you and really empower you that even if you don't have that much capacity, maybe even if you feel a bit earlier in business, I think it's almost impossible to be too early and too new to get started with collaborations because that's how we grow. That's how we start building our networks. That's how we get affiliates and referrals, and we start to be thought of and mentioned in rooms we're not in. So I think don't let the fear of it being a big project hold you back because you can keep it small, and don't let the fear of being maybe too new hold you back because this is how you build that sense of momentum in your business too.
Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today and sharing all of your wonderful knowledge with us. Before we leave, can you let the folks know where they can find you? And I believe you have a free gift for them also.
I do, yes. So I am easy to find. I'm the only Michelle Pontvert out there. So my website, michellepontvert.com, is very easy and I kind of point you everywhere. I will be honest, I'm not the best at social media. You can find me there. I'm mostly on Threads and I'm making a commitment to try and be better on LinkedIn, but I'm mostly on my email list. That's the best place to hang out with me. And then I have a private podcast that I share the behind the scenes of my business every week. And so if you're curious what it looks like to actually put on all these events and do all this as someone with limited capacity, with lots of life things going on, I think that's a really nice way to see real time what it actually looks like. So I'd encourage you to check that out too. That's also on my website. It's called the Backstage Pass. And then my free gift is a quiz that's going to help you pick which of these kinds of events are going to be the best fit for you. It's a really fun quiz. It leans on my old film days. I've made it all film themed. And you basically go through and tell the quiz a little bit about you, your goals, the type of business you have, and you'll get matched with the format, whether it's a summit, a bundle, or some of these other fun formats, to really help you see what's going to be appropriate for you at your size of business and the space you have, but also meet the goals you have for yourself in your business. It's a really fun quiz and it's been eerily accurate thus far. So I'm asking everyone to email me when they've taken it to tell me if it's secretly the event format they were hoping they'd get. So I'll have the link for that shared below because it's a really fun quiz and I'm genuinely curious to hear what people get when they get matched up.
And I'm going to make sure that all of those links are in the show notes so you can find them here below. And Michelle, thank you so much for joining me today.
Oh, thank you so much for having me and letting me nerd out about lovely events.
Yeah.
Thanks for listening all the way to the end. I hope you enjoyed this episode today. If you loved the show, I'd appreciate a review on Apple Podcasts or your favorite podcast platform. Have a great rest of your day and bye for now.